The maid asked for one night with the millionaire. He didn't hesitate, and that night changed. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The rain drummed softly against the wide glass windows of the Grand Royal Hotel. Lightning flickered over the skyline, washing the marble floors in a brief silver glow. In the quiet service hallway on the top floor, Lena Harper pushed her cleaning cart forward, the wheels squeaking every few feet. Her uniform was still damp from the storm, and her hands smelled faintly of lemon polish. It was almost midnight, and her body begged for rest. But rent was due in 3 days, and her mother's medication would not wait. She glanced down at the crumpled work slip in her pocket. Room 604. Last one for the night. She rubbed her tired eyes and stepped into the dim corridor. The gold numbers on the doors glimmered faintly. Somewhere above, thunder rumbled. The carpet muffled her steps as she stopped in front of a door where the number was partly scratched, rainwater seeping through the edge of the frame. She squinted. Was that a 4 or a 6? Room 604, she whispered, turning the handle. It clicked open easily. Inside, the room was dim, lit only by the city's reflection through the window. The faint scent of cologne and whiskey hung in the air. Lena stepped inside carefully, pulling her cart behind her. Housekeeping, she called softly. No answer. She moved farther in, reaching for the switch. A deep voice came from the shadows. You are late. Lena froze. Her heart jumped. I am sorry, sir. I thought the room was empty. From the balcony doorway, Ethan Ward appeared, his shirt collar undone, tie loose around his neck. His hair was still damp from the rain. The powerful lines of his face looked almost tired under the low light. He studied her in silence, one eyebrow raised. You are the new night maid? Yes, sir, she managed, gripping the handle of her cart. I was told to clean room 604. A faint smile touched his lips. Then maybe fate decided otherwise. He gestured toward the couch. You look exhausted. Sit down for a minute. Lena shook her head quickly. That would be unprofessional, sir. Ethan watched her, something curious flickering behind his calm expression. For the first time in weeks, he saw someone who did not treat him like a CEO. She looked frightened, yes, but honest real. I asked for one night of peace, he murmured, walking past her toward the minibar. And instead, I got you. I can leave, sir. I am truly sorry for disturbing you, Lena said, her cheeks flushed. She turned to go, but the sound of thunder rolled again, followed by the sudden crack of lightning. The lights flickered, then went out completely. The room fell into darkness. Lena gasped. Oh no, not again. The storm must have cut the power. No. Ethan's deep laugh echoed softly in the dark. Looks like you will have to stay, Miss Maid, unless you plan to walk through that lightning. Her heartbeat drummed in her ears. She could barely see his outline as he lit the small emergency lamp on the counter. The soft glow revealed his face calm, composed, with the kind of presence that filled every corner of the room. Lena hugged her arms, trying to hide her nervousness. I will wait by the door until the lights come back. No. Suit yourself, he said, pouring a glass of water and setting it beside her. At least take this. She hesitated, then accepted it. Thank you. For a few quiet moments, the only sounds were the storm outside and the clinking of glass. The rain slid down the window like tears. Ethan leaned against the counter, studying the woman who had stepped into his night by mistake. What is your name? He asked finally. Lena, she said softly. Lena, he repeated, as if testing the sound. You know, not many people look me in the eye when they talk. That is probably because you are very tall, she replied without thinking. He laughed quietly, surprised by her bluntness. You are the first person to tell me that tonight. She smiled despite herself, and for a fleeting second, the tension in the room melted. The thunder softened. The hum of the storm became almost comforting. Neither of them knew it yet, but that wrong door, that storm, and that single night would change both of their lives forever. The storm outside faded to a steady drizzle by morning. The city skyline shimmered behind the gray clouds, and the Grand Royal Hotel came alive again with the sound of rolling luggage and ringing telephones. Lena's shift had ended hours ago, but she sat on the small bench behind the staff entrance, her hands wrapped around a cup of lukewarm coffee. Her eyes were heavy, her back sore, yet her mind could not stop replaying the night before. She had cleaned dozens of rooms since she started this job, but none like that one. The stranger's calm voice still echoed in her head, the way he had looked at her not as a maid, but as if she had interrupted something deeper, lonelier. She shook the thought away. He was just another guest. She had work to do, rent to pay, a sick mother waiting for her call. Dreams were for people who could afford them. When her phone buzzed, she almost dropped it. Lena. Her mother's tired voice came through, soft and slow. "Did you sleep at all?" "A little," Lena lied, forcing a smile that her mother could not see. "How are you feeling today?" "Better now that I hear you. Did you eat breakfast?" "I will soon." "Promise me you will not skip it." "I promise." She ended the call and leaned her head against the cold wall. The sound of traffic outside grew louder as the rain stopped. Somewhere above her, sunlight broke through the clouds, sending faint rays through the hotel's glass doors. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her small notebook, its corners bent and smudged with cleaner. The cover read in faded ink, "Kindness Journal." It was something she started when she was 16, a place to write down the small good things she saw each day. A guest leaving a tip, a coworker sharing food, a stranger holding an umbrella for her. It reminded her that even in long, lonely nights, kindness still existed. But when she flipped it open, her chest tightened. The pages were blank. The notebook she held was not hers. She remembered clearly she had left hers on the desk in that man's room. "Oh no," she whispered, heart pounding. If a supervisor found it, she could be accused of negligence or worse, stealing. She jumped to her feet, running back inside the service hall. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. When the doors opened, she nearly collided with her manager, Mr. Clark, who stood near the reception desk with a clipboard. His eyes narrowed. "Lena, what are you doing back here? Your shift is over." I left something in one of the rooms," she stammered. Before he could answer, a voice spoke behind him. "She is looking for her notebook." Lena froze. Ethan Ward stood a few feet away, dressed in a dark suit now, clean-shaven, the very picture of control and wealth. For a second, she could not move. He handed her the worn notebook. "You left this behind." Her throat went dry. "Thank you, sir. I did not mean to cause trouble." Mr. Clark's tone softened immediately. "Mr. Ward, everything all right?" "Perfectly," Ethan said smoothly. "And if possible, I would like Miss Harper assigned to the executive floor this week. She works with focus." "Lo." Lena blinked in disbelief. Her? On the executive floor? That was a position reserved for the most experienced staff. Mr. Clark looked confused but nodded quickly. "Of course, sir." Ethan's gaze returned to her for a brief moment. "Have a good day, Miss Harper." Then he turned and disappeared into the elevator. Lena stood frozen, notebook clutched to her chest. The hallway buzzed again with the rush of carts and cleaners, but her world had slowed. She looked down at the notebook and found something new on the first page. In neat, masculine handwriting were 6 words. "Kindness deserves to be remembered, always." Her fingers trembled slightly as she traced the ink. For the first time in months, Lena felt her heart stir with something she had forgotten: hope. She did not know yet that this small exchange, this simple act of returning a notebook, would soon lead her into a world far beyond the quiet hallways of the Grand Royal Hotel. The next few days passed in a blur of long shifts and quiet thoughts. Lena moved carefully through the polished corridors of the executive floor, where every surface gleamed and every guest carried an air of power. She still could not believe she had been assigned there. Each night she double-checked the linens, arranged the flowers precisely, and made sure no detail escaped her. But no matter how busy she was, her mind returned again and again to the note inside her notebook. Kindness deserves to be remembered, always. She wondered if Ethan Ward even remembered writing it. Maybe it had been a polite gesture, something he forgot the moment she left the room. Yet the thought lingered, and each time she saw the penthouse door, her heartbeat quickened. Late one afternoon, as she finished her rounds, Mr. Clark called her aside. "Miss Harper, Mr. Ward has requested you personally for a private event tonight. A small charity dinner in the Blue Hall. Be on duty there at 7. "Yes, sir," Lena said softly, though her stomach fluttered with nerves. She hurried to the staff quarters, changed into a fresh uniform, and tied her hair neatly. When she returned, the blue hall had already been transformed. Silver light spilled through the tall windows, and crystal glasses shimmered under chandeliers. She worked quietly, setting the tables and checking the placements. Guests began to arrive, men in dark suits, women in elegant dresses. The air filled with low laughter and the clink of wine glasses. Then Ethan entered, wearing a navy tuxedo that seemed to command the entire room. He greeted his guests with an effortless calm, but when his eyes found Lena across the hall, his expression softened. During the dinner, she stayed near the back, refilling glasses and clearing plates. The guests spoke about profits, mergers, and global markets, words that meant little to her. Yet every so often, she caught fragments of Ethan's voice, deep and steady, talking not about wealth but about compassion, about building programs for underprivileged youth. It surprised her. When the final toast ended, the crowd drifted toward the lounge. Lena began clearing the tables. She was lifting a tray when a voice came from behind her. "You work very quietly, Miss Harper." She turned quickly. Ethan stood a few feet away, jacket unbuttoned, holding 2 empty glasses. He handed them to her. "You make this place feel calmer." "That is kind of you to say, sir," she replied, keeping her eyes down. He tilted his head. "Do you always call people sir, even when they return your notebook?" Her cheeks warmed. "It feels safer that way." Ethan smiled faintly. "Safety is overrated." He leaned against the edge of the table. "Tell me something, Lena. Do you ever get tired of serving others?" She hesitated, then spoke honestly. "Sometimes. But I remind myself that everyone deserves to be treated with care, no matter who they are." He studied her, clearly intrigued. "That is not something I hear often." "It is what my mother taught me," she said. "She said kindness is the only thing that makes the world bearable." Ethan nodded slowly. "Your mother sounds like a wise woman." "She is," Lena said softly. "She just needs to get better so she can keep proving it." For a long moment, neither spoke. The music from the other room faded into a gentle hum. Then Ethan said quietly, "We are hosting a charity event next week to support medical relief programs. I could use someone who understands kindness the way you do. Would you consider assisting me?" Lena's eyes widened. "Me? But I am just a maid." "Not to me," Ethan said simply. "You are the reason I remembered why I started all this." "No." Her breath caught. She did not know what to say. Before she could respond, a manager entered and called his name. Ethan nodded politely and stepped away. "Think about it, Miss Harper. I will see you soon." As he disappeared into the crowd, Lena stood motionless, the tray trembling slightly in her hands. For the first time in years, she felt something stirring inside her that had nothing to do with fear or duty. It was the faint, unfamiliar spark of possibility. The following week moved faster than Lena could comprehend. The Grand Royal Hotel buzzed with preparations for the upcoming charity gala. Every department worked overtime, and her new assignment placed her directly under Mr. Ward's supervision. It still felt unreal each morning when she saw his name on the event memo, Ethan Ward, executive director, and realized she would be working alongside him. The gala was more than a social event. It was a fundraiser for underfunded medical programs, the kind that could have helped her mother years ago. When Ethan explained that to the staff during their briefing, his tone was calm, but sincere. "This is not about luxury tonight," he said. "It is about compassion disguised as celebration." The words stayed with Lena all day. Her new duties were unlike anything she had done before. Instead of cleaning rooms, she managed lists, confirmed deliveries, and coordinated volunteers. It was exhausting but thrilling. Each evening, when the corridors emptied, she stayed behind to double-check the seating plans and decorations. More than once, she found Ethan still there, reading reports under the warm desk lamp. One night, near midnight, she brought him coffee. He looked up from his laptop, surprised. "You are still here." "I wanted to make sure the table settings are correct," she said. "Some of the name cards were mixed up." He smiled faintly. "You are more careful than most of my assistants." "I cannot afford to make mistakes," she replied. "One mistake could cost me this job." Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You know, I used to think the same way. Then I realized perfection keeps us from seeing the people who need help the most." Lena hesitated. "You make it sound easy." "It is not," he admitted. "But neither is working 16-hour shifts just to take care of your family." Her eyes widened slightly. "How did you know that?" He tapped the small notebook lying on his desk, the one she had left in his room that night. You wrote about your mother's treatments and your sister's scholarship in here. I read only a few lines. I hope that is all right. She nodded slowly. It is all right, sir. Those pages were never secrets, just reminders. Ethan's expression softened. They reminded me of something, too. That real strength is quiet. It does not need a boardroom to prove itself. Oh, Lena looked at him, unsure how to respond. The air felt different between them, less like an employee and employer, more like two people speaking from the same side of struggle. When the gala night finally arrived, the ballroom glowed like a sea of gold. The air smelled of roses and polished silver. Celebrities and donors filled the room, their laughter rising above the music. Lena moved among them, making sure every detail ran smoothly. At the center of it all stood Ethan, perfectly composed. But when his eyes found her across the crowd, a flicker of warmth passed through his calm exterior. During a brief pause in the evening, he approached her. You did excellent work tonight. The event would not have come together without you. Thank you, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I just followed the schedule. No. He looked around the hall, filled with glittering lights, and whispered, sometimes following the right heart matters more than following the schedule. Before she could answer, the host took the stage. Applause echoed through the hall as Ethan was invited to deliver his speech. He walked up, his steps firm and deliberate, and spoke to hundreds with a sincerity that made even the chatter fade away. This gala is not about the names on the walls, he said. It is about the people who remind us that kindness still holds the world together. From the back of the room, Lena felt her throat tighten. She realized he was not only speaking to the crowd, he was speaking to her. When the speech ended, the audience rose in applause. Ethan stepped down from the stage, his eyes searching for hers through the glow of chandeliers. For a fleeting moment, amid all the wealth and noise, the maid and the millionaire shared a look that said everything words could not. When the applause faded and the guests began to mingle again, the music in the ballroom softened into a gentle jazz rhythm. Lena stayed near the side of the hall, helping servers clear the tables and keeping an eye on the dessert line. Her heart was still racing from Ethan's speech. Every word he had said felt too personal, too close to what they had shared in quiet hallways and late-night talks. After the final guests departed, she walked through the now empty ballroom, gathering forgotten napkins and glasses. The chandeliers shimmered above her like distant stars. Her feet ached, but she could not bring herself to leave yet. That night felt different, as if something important had shifted. Ethan appeared near the entrance, his bow tie undone, his sleeves rolled up. Still working? He asked, his tone light but tired. Someone has to, she replied with a faint smile. He picked up a stray glass from a nearby table and set it on her tray. You have done enough for one evening. Let me help you. She laughed softly. You do not look like someone who cleans up after parties. Maybe not, he said, but you make it look almost peaceful. They worked side by side in silence for a few minutes, the sound of clinking glass filling the space. Finally, Ethan spoke again, his voice lower this time. You know, I have hosted dozens of galas, but tonight was the first time I felt like it meant something. Because of the donations? She asked. He shook his head. Because of the people behind them. Because of you. Lena felt her cheeks warm. I just did my job. Perhaps, he said, but you reminded me why I built this place. It was never supposed to be about luxury. It was supposed to be about connection. Leiji, she looked down, unsure how to respond. You do not need to say that, Mr. Ward. I am only staff. He stepped closer, his expression gentle but firm. Do not call yourself only anything. You have more integrity than most people in this room tonight. For a moment they stood in silence. The rain had stopped outside, leaving the city streets glistening under the lights. The sound of distant thunder lingered like a heartbeat. Ethan glanced at the grand piano in the corner. Do you play? She shook her head. No, but my sister does. She says music is how you keep a heart from getting tired. He smiled. Your sister sounds like someone I would like to meet someday. She would faint if she met you, Lena said with a nervous laugh. Then I will make sure to give her fair warning, he replied. The mood softened, the distance between them shrinking without either of them realizing. Ethan took a slow breath and said, There is something else. The Foundation Board is launching a new program to train young people in hospitality and management. I would like you to be part of it. Lena blinked. Me? I do not even have a degree. You have something better, he said simply. You understand people. Her voice trembled slightly. I would not want anyone to think I got this because of you. Ethan's gaze met hers. You got it because of you. The words settled over her like a quiet promise. She nodded slowly, unable to stop the small smile forming on her lips. When the last light dimmed and the ballroom finally emptied, Ethan walked her to the elevator. The silence between them was calm, no longer awkward. Before the doors closed, he said softly, "Thank you for trusting me that night, even when I did not deserve it." Lena looked up at him, remembering the storm, the wrong door, the misunderstanding that had started everything. Maybe it was not a mistake after all, she said. The doors slid shut, and for the first time since that rainy night, Ethan Ward realized how something as simple as kindness could rewrite an entire life. The morning after the gala, sunlight spilled gently through the tall glass windows of the Grand Royal Hotel. The world felt new, as if the rain had washed everything clean. Lena stood at the staff counter, holding a small envelope with her name written in neat handwriting. Inside was an invitation embossed with gold. It read, "Executive Luncheon, Ward Foundation, attendance required." Her first thought was that there had been a mistake. She had never been invited to an executive event before. But the note was signed by Ethan Ward himself. Her fingers trembled slightly as she read it again. He wanted her there. By noon, she stood outside the private conference room, her plain uniform looking out of place among the tailored suits. Through the half-open door, she could see a long table filled with board members, department heads, and investors. Ethan sat at the far end, speaking quietly with his assistant. When his eyes lifted and met hers, he gave a subtle nod, a silent encouragement that steadied her. "Miss Harper," said a woman at the door, "Mr. Ward asked that you join us." Lena stepped inside. Every gaze turned toward her. For a second, she felt her knees weaken. Then Ethan rose from his chair. "Everyone, this is Miss Lena Harper. She will be assisting in our upcoming outreach project." A few executives exchanged puzzled looks. One of them, a man with silver hair, leaned forward. "With all due respect, Ethan, she is a hotel employee, not a project coordinator." Ethan's expression stayed calm. "She understands the heart of what we do better than anyone here. That is why I trust her." The room fell silent. Lena felt the weight of the moment pressing on her chest. She wanted to speak but could not find the words. Ethan gestured to an empty seat beside him. "Please, have a seat." As the meeting continued, he outlined plans for the new community initiative training programs, scholarships, and medical assistance for low-income families. When the conversation turned to budgeting, he paused and looked at Lena. "Miss Harper, you have experience with these challenges firsthand. What do you think would make this project truly help people?" The question startled her. Everyone waited. She took a slow breath. "People do not need charity that makes them feel small," she said softly. "They need opportunity that reminds them they matter." Ethan's lips curved slightly. "Exactly," the board members murmured, nodding slowly. By the end of the meeting, the tone of the room had shifted. Respect replaced doubt. Afterward, as the others filed out, Ethan remained by the window. The city stretched before him in warm, golden light. "You handled yourself perfectly," he said. "I was terrified," Lena admitted. "That is how I know you cared," he replied. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to speak anyway." She smiled faintly. "I still feel like I do not belong in that room." "Then stay long enough until you do," Ethan said. "And when that happens, help others walk in after you." His words echoed in her heart long after she left the room. That afternoon, as she passed the lobby filled with guests and laughter, Lena realized something had changed. The hotel no longer felt like a place she merely worked. It felt like a place where she could build something lasting. Later that evening, when she checked her phone, she saw a new message. It was from Ethan. "The world needs more people who believe in kindness. Dinner tomorrow night? Strictly professional, unless you want it to be otherwise." "No." Lena stared at the screen, her pulse quickening. She typed back slowly, smiling to herself. "Professional sounds fine, for now." Outside, the city lights began to glow, and for the first time in years, Lena felt that her life was not just surviving, it was beginning. The next evening arrived with a golden sunset spilling across the city skyline. Lena stood in front of the small mirror inside her apartment, smoothing the wrinkles on her modest blue dress. It was not designer or elegant, but it was clean and pressed, and that was enough. Her mother, resting on the couch, smiled faintly. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," her mother said. "Where are you going?" "It is just a dinner," Lena answered softly. "Work-related." Her mother chuckled. "Work does not usually make your cheeks glow like that." Lena tried not to smile, but it was useless. "It really is just dinner, Mom. Nothing more." Oh well. Outside, the evening air smelled of rain and lilacs as she caught a taxi to the restaurant listed in Ethan's message. It was a quiet place overlooking the river, elegant but not pretentious. When she arrived, Ethan was already waiting, dressed in a dark suit without a tie. He stood as she approached, his expression calm but undeniably warm. "You made it," he said. "I almost turned back twice," she admitted with a nervous laugh. "Then I am glad courage won." The waiter led them to a private corner with soft lighting. For a while, they talked easily about the upcoming foundation project, about travel, about simple things like coffee and weather. But as the plates were cleared and the night deepened, the conversation shifted to something quieter. Ethan set down his glass and looked at her across the table. "Do you ever think about that night? The storm? The wrong door?" Lena met his eyes. "Every day," she said. "It feels like another lifetime." "No. It changed mine," he said. "That night made me see the difference between being alone and being empty." Her pulse quickened. "You were never empty, Ethan. You just forgot how to look at the world." He smiled faintly. "And you reminded me." For a moment, silence filled the air between them, soft but electric. Then Ethan said quietly, "You know, the board has been watching you. They think I am favoring you." Lena looked down, uneasy. "I was afraid of that." "Oh, do you care?" "I care about my work," she said. "And I care that people think I earned it for the right reasons." Ethan nodded slowly. "You did. But I will be honest. I care about you for reasons that have nothing to do with work." Her breath caught. She looked up, meeting the steady sincerity in his gaze. "Ethan, you should not say that," she said quietly. "People will talk." "They already do," he replied. "Let them. I am tired of pretending to be a man who feels nothing." Oh. The sound of rain began again outside, tapping softly against the glass windows. The lights of the river shimmered like scattered stars. Lena spoke carefully, her voice trembling. "I do not know what this is. I have spent my life building walls just to stay safe. You live in a world I can barely understand." "Then let me show you that it does not have to be cruel," Ethan said. "Let me earn your trust, not your silence." For a long time she said nothing. The rain grew heavier, filling the quiet space with its rhythm. Finally, she whispered, "You already earned it that night. I just do not know what comes next." Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Then let us find out together." When dinner ended, he offered to drive her home. In the car, neither spoke much, but the air between them was different, now charged with something fragile yet undeniable. When they reached her street, he stopped the car but did not open the door right away. "Good night, Miss Harper," he said softly. "Good night, Mr. Ward." Their eyes met for one last lingering moment before she stepped out into the drizzle. As the car pulled away, Lena stood beneath the streetlight, realizing that somewhere between the first misunderstanding and this quiet goodbye, she had stopped seeing him as a millionaire and started seeing him as a man. The days following their dinner felt strangely quiet. At the hotel, people whispered in the hallways, their glances sharp and curious. Lena tried to ignore it, keeping her head down and focusing on her duties, but she could feel the shift in the air. Every time Ethan's name came up, the tone of conversation changed. Some called her lucky, others called her reckless. One morning, as she arranged flowers in the lobby, Mr. Clark approached her with a tense expression. "Miss Harper," he said quietly, "you may want to be careful. Rumors travel fast, and not everyone sees kindness for what it is." "I understand," she replied, forcing a small smile. "I just want to do my job." He nodded and walked away, but his worried look lingered. That afternoon, she noticed the board members gathered in the cafe, speaking in low voices. Her stomach tightened when she saw Ethan standing among them, his posture calm but his eyes sharp. Something was wrong. Later that day, she was called to his office. The air felt heavy when she entered. Ethan stood by the window, hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. "Close the door, Lena," he said. She did, her heart beating fast. "What is happening?" "The board is investigating me," he said simply. They think I compromise professional boundaries. They want to review every project I approved this quarter, including the foundation training program. Her breath caught. Because of me? He turned toward her, his voice soft but firm. They are using you as an excuse. But the truth is, they have wanted a reason to question me for months. She felt a wave of guilt wash over her. I never meant to cause trouble. Maybe I should step down from the project. No, Ethan said quickly. That is exactly what they want. They believe you do not belong here. I will not let them take this away from you. She shook her head. Ethan, if protecting me costs you everything, then it is not worth it. Oh, he stepped closer, his voice lowering. It is worth it to me. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the hum of the city faint through the glass windows. Finally, Lena whispered, You cannot fight them all. Ethan's eyes softened. Maybe not. But I can stand for what I believe in. The next morning, the board held a formal review. Lena waited outside the conference room, clutching her small notebook. The doors opened and closed, voices rising and falling inside. She could hear fragments of arguments, words like improper, favoritism, unethical. Hours later, Ethan walked out. His tie was gone, his expression pale but composed. The board members followed, murmuring among themselves. Lena rushed to him. What did they say? They suspended my executive authority for 30 days, he said quietly. Effective immediately. Her heart sank. Because of me. No, he said firmly. Because I refused to apologize for believing in someone. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. What will you do now? Ethan managed a small, tired smile. Take a break. Maybe remember what life feels like outside these walls. He looked at her for a long moment. And you, Lena, you will keep going. You belong here more than they ever will. She wanted to argue, but the words caught in her throat. He reached into his pocket and handed her a small envelope. For you, he said. Open it when you need a reminder of who you are. No. Then he walked away, leaving the hallway echoing with the sound of his fading footsteps. That night, alone in her small apartment, Lena opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph taken at the gala, her standing beside the floral arrangements she had designed, smiling shyly in the background. On the back, Ethan had written in steady handwriting, Do not let anyone convince you that grace is weakness. The world needs your light. Lena pressed the photo to her heart, tears falling freely. For the first time, she understood that love was not always about comfort. Sometimes, it was about courage, the courage to keep believing even when everything else falls apart. A month passed, and the Grand Royal Hotel carried on as if nothing had changed. Guests came and went, the board members returned to their meetings, and the gossip eventually faded. But for Lena, every day felt quieter without Ethan's presence in the building. His office remained locked, his nameplate polished but untouched. She still arrived early and stayed late, doing her work with quiet precision, yet every time she passed the top floor, a small ache stirred in her chest. One evening, after finishing her shift, she returned home to find her mother waiting by the window with a letter in her hands. This came for you, her mother said, smiling faintly. The envelope bore the crest of the Ward Foundation. Lena tore it open carefully. Inside was a formal invitation. You are cordially invited to the unveiling of the new Ward Community Center. At the bottom, in handwriting, she recognized instantly, were the words, A place built from kindness, just like you said. Her heart leapt. The event was scheduled for the following Saturday. When the day arrived, she took the train to the city's east side, where an old warehouse had been transformed into a modern learning space. Banners hung across the entrance, children laughed as they ran between tables, and volunteers handed out boxes of supplies. A large sign read, The Ward Community Center, Opening Day. Lena stepped inside, her eyes wide with wonder. The building was bright and warm, filled with plants, books, and art created by local families. On one wall, framed photographs captured moments from the gala, the night everything had changed. At the center stood Ethan, speaking with city officials and volunteers. He looked different, more relaxed, without the sharp edges of a corporate leader. When he saw her, his expression shifted instantly. He excused himself from the crowd and walked toward her. You came, he said softly. I would not have missed it, Lena replied. It is beautiful, Ethan. He smiled. It is yours, too. You inspired this place. She shook her head. No, you built it. He took a slow breath. I may have built the walls, but you gave it a reason to exist. The crowd quieted as a local musician began to play a gentle tune. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small sketchbook, the same one she had once carried during her cleaning shifts. The cover was worn, the corners soft from years of use. You left this on my desk before I stepped down, he said. It kept me grounded when I wanted to give up. He opened the first page, revealing her handwriting from years ago. Kindness deserves to be remembered, always. Nah. Lena felt tears gather in her eyes. You remembered. I never forgot, he said quietly. And I am done pretending that I can live without what truly matters. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Lena Harper, you taught me that leadership is not about power, it is about heart. And if you will let me, I would like to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. For a moment, she could only stare at him, her heart full. Then she whispered, You already have. No. The crowd erupted in gentle applause as Ethan took her hand. Cameras flashed, music swelled, and sunlight streamed through the tall windows, catching the gold tones of the banners above them. Months later, the community center flourished. Children attended free classes, families found support, and a new foundation scholarship bore her name, the Lena Harper Initiative. On a quiet evening, after the day's work ended, Lena stood in the main hall surrounded by laughter and light. Ethan joined her, slipping an arm gently around her shoulders. It all started with one wrong door, she said softly. He smiled, kissing her forehead. The best mistake we ever made. As the lights dimmed and the city glowed beyond the windows, their reflections stood side by side, a maid and a millionaire who had proven that love, when born